Right. So the residence visa options for Portugal, they are known as D visas as well. So it's important to understand what a D visa is. So first, uh, this type of visa, it's not a temporary stay visa. This is related to for those who intend to stay in Portugal for more than 12 months. So if the intention is to be in the country for more than 12 months, then the application must be for a D visa. Because when you go to the consulate, when you go to some other companies that work for the consulate on their behalf, you might see some other options like E visas, temporary stay visas, but for those who intend to live, like to move and live in Portugal, the D visa, it's the correct one to apply for. So this visa entitles to a temporary residence permit. So first, the applicant actually needs to go to the country of origin, to the jurisdiction where he lives. There is a responsible consulate of Portugal for that. Or the consulate of Portugal will work with a partner company that will receive the application. Usually it is VFS, it's the most common one. So then the applicant will need to have an appointment at VFS to apply for this D visa. There, once they apply for that, once they get the approval, there is like a visa seal in the passport, and then this will be valid for 4 months. So that's the period that they will have to move to Portugal, like to arrive in Portugal after the first stage of the process. But during this period, the applicants will need to go to the immigration agency to apply for the temporary residence permit card. So the visa will then, you'll switch your visa seal in the passport to a residence permit card. This one, it's like an ID card and it will be valid first for 2 years and it's renewable for 3 more years. At the end of that, you can get a permanent one and even apply for the Portuguese citizenship through length of residence. So yeah, just here at the end, I put about the in-person appointment in Portugal. This is like a second stage of the process, but it's quite easier. So the most important part is to prepare everything at the country of origin, showing that you are eligible for a specific type of D visa. And then there's a specific checklist for that. The preparation is really important and more important at the first stage. After the visa is granted, you will need to come to Portugal, you will move to Portugal, and here the process is quite simpler. So about the D visa types that Portugal currently offers, the most popular choices right now will be the D7 visa. This is for holders of passive income. It's not only for retirees, it's most like common for retired people, but also those who receive like dividends from companies, or if you receive rents, like if you are a landlord and you get rentals on a regular basis, this also qualifies for the D7 visa. So all types of passive income are eligible for this visa type. And it's possible to be combined. So you need to have at least one source of passive income, but if you have more, you can add and you can complete. So the more, the better, the better. But if you have only one that already meets the minimum amount required, it's already enough. And we'll check about the requirements later. The D8 visa, it's for digital nomads. It's a new visa type. Actually, it's working for about 2 years already. And this is related for those who can work remotely and can live in Portugal working for like a foreigner company. It cannot be a Portuguese company. So for those, they will need to prove that they are able to work from Portugal fully remotely. It has a higher threshold for the amount that we'll check later. And the D2, it's for entrepreneurs. This visa type is more like related to those who intend to open a business in Portugal. Like if you open a company here and you have a business plan and you can prove to the Portuguese agents that it's like it makes sense like to start this business here and you cause like a good impression. Once you are able to open the company, you don't need to have a residence permit for that. You don't need to be a Portuguese citizen, and you can do all remotely. We could help on that as well. So once the company is duly registered, you will be entitled to apply for the D2 visa. Some other available options that we have will be, well, the D1, D3 visa. Those are related for subordinate workers in Portugal. So if you're going to work for a Portuguese company, you could apply to one of those. And the D3, the difference is that this is for highly qualified professionals, like usually related to the IT sector, but also professors at universities, physicians, and other some other professions as well. The D4 visa, it's for students. If you are enrolled in a Portuguese educational institution, it's possible to apply for this one as well. So we have several options actually, and all these visa options entitle applicants to be accompanied by family members. So if you have spouse, kids, they can also apply. There is actually a specific visa for them, which is called accompanying. It's a residence visa for accompanying a family member. And these applications, they will be linked to the main application. So you can bring your family, you will apply for one of these visa types, and the family members will apply for the accompanying family member visa. And you might receive the approvals all at the same time as a family. So selecting some of the most common ones here and about how to qualify for these visa types. First of all, we have the D7 visa. As I mentioned, you will need to have at least one source of regular passive income. So the government, they will need to observe and you will need to provide some proof that this source of passive income it happens like on a regular basis. It doesn't really need to be every month, but if not, you will need to provide further bank statements because to prove that, one of the requirements is to show the most recent 3 bank statements at least, and the most recent tax return preferably. So like that, using that, you need to prove the minimum amount per month should be at least the Portuguese minimum wage, which is currently 870 euros. If you have family members, this amount should increase a bit. So 50% for additional adults like the spouse, or 30% for each additional kid if you have kids. So you will need to calculate to check what will be the minimum amount for the D7 visa like that. Also, it's necessary to prove that you have savings of at least 10,400 euros. It's actually 440 euros, which is 12 times the Portuguese minimum wage. So you need to prove that you already have how to cover your expenses in Portugal for at least a year. It's like a guarantee that you can come, you can move, and it won't be a problem for you, like for your financial situation. So for those savings, we highly recommend opening a Portuguese bank account here. You can do that remotely, and it helps a lot to get the approval at the end. If for any reason you are not able to open the bank account in Portugal before you apply, it can represent some risks, but still it's possible to try. But we always help our clients to get in touch with a bank manager so you can already deposit this amount of money in Portugal before the application. So you will bring an updated bank statement from Portugal showing that, well, I already have this savings in Portugal, so it's pretty easy for me to move and to cover my expenses, plus showing the regular source of income. So it causes a really good impression to the Portuguese agents, and there is no reason for them to deny the application. So for the D8 visa, it's a little different. You will need to prove that you can work remotely. This can be done like through a work contract, through a service contract, because you can be either an employee or a self-employed person. So a professional that can show that in the previous 3 months, on average, they are receiving at least 4 times the Portuguese minimum wage net, not gross. So you will need to show that you have these regular payments that represents the minimum average amount of 3,480 euros per month in the previous 3 months of the application. So this is important to provide bank statements, the work contract or service contract, and also the most recent tax return. If you have pay slips, if you have receipts like to your clients, you can also provide that. The more, the better to create a strong application. As for the savings for the D8 visa, the savings will represent the same amount as for the D7 visa, so it won't be higher. What is higher is the average active income that you need to prove. So for savings, it will be the same, 12 times the Portuguese minimum wage, representing around 10,400 euros. So also here we recommend using the Portuguese bank account statement if possible. If not, for the D8 visa, it's a little more flexible. You can just, through the work contract, they can consider that you already have what they call means of subsistence. But by our experience, it's really good and important to try to open the bank account here and show that you have this savings. For the D2 visa, the process is a little different too. So first, the first stage of the process for you to prepare everything that you need, all the documents, it's on how to open the bank account here. And we can help on that as well. You will need a lawyer and an accountant to help on this part. So you will need to create like a business plan. You will need to select what kind of activity you will develop in Portugal, and we can guide you through the steps to open the company in Portugal. It's not that difficult, the part of registering the company, but you need to follow some steps like to select properly the type of activity that you will develop here. This usually takes around a month for you to complete this part, or 2 months, something like that, so the company can be registered. And then the only requirement for the company, the only financial requirement for that, because it can be a brand new company, you don't need to show that you are already receiving money from there. But still, you will just need to deposit the share capital of the company to activate the business bank account. This amount is not high. It's actually something that you can choose. It's usually you can start with around 1,000 euros, and that will be enough. And the savings criteria will be the same as the others. Right, so about the main required documents for all of these D visa types, you will need a valid passport for all of the applicants, the most recent bank statements, the past 3 months at least. If you can add a little more, like 6 months, it's good as well. And here we have one of the most sensitive part of the process. So for any of these D visa types, you need to prove that you already have a proof of accommodation in Portugal for at least 12 months. So even though, well, you don't know yet if you'll get the approval, they expect to see that you were able to secure accommodation in Portugal already for at least 12 months. So they can see that you have where to stay when you come. They have some options for you to prove that. The most common one will be a formal lease agreement. So for that, you can, even remotely, you don't need to come to Portugal. You can search for some options. And if you sign a legit lease agreement, like signed by both parties, you and the landlord, this can be already used for your D visa application. It represents like a risk of you maybe losing one or two rents, because the thing is, they have 60 days to provide to you the decision, the approval. So the start date of the lease agreement doesn't need to be really when you go to apply for your visa, but it must be like at most 2 months after your application date. So until you are able to move to Portugal, maybe you can lose one or two, but it's part of the process. So they need to see the formal lease agreement for that. It's the most used one, but some jurisdictions can offer different options, like even hotel or Airbnb reservation, the confirmation can be used for you to prove that. But it's just not really convenient because maybe usually it's more expensive. And also, there's a good one if you know someone in Portugal who lives here, if it's a Portuguese citizen, or if you have a friend which is like a foreigner who lives in Portugal, and if they have the residence permit card already, they can invite you to stay at their place. And there's a specific form that this friend or family member could sign on your behalf, and this can be used as proof of accommodation as well. So you can prove that you will stay at their place for at least 12 months according to what they signed for you. It's also available. And of course, if you have a property here, if you purchased a home in Portugal already, the property deed could be used as proof of accommodation. Also, the travel medical insurance, they will require that it's not only a travel insurance, it must be a travel medical insurance. Actually, what I mean is like it's not only a health insurance, it must be for travel as well. So it must cover from your country of origin to Portugal, expenses, risks like repatriation of bodies and urgency if you have any problem that you need to use the hospital, but not only for Portugal, it must be for the whole Schengen area. So it must cover all countries of the Schengen area and it must cover at least 30,000 euros. So you might find some policies that offer, there are some standard ones that will offer for 3 months validity, but that's for tourism. Since you are applying for a residence visa, you will need to get that valid for at least 6 months because then it will cover the whole period of the application process and the visa that will be granted to you, which is valid for 4 months in your passport. So at least 6 months. If possible, you can purchase more, like for 12 months, so you can use that when you move as well. Also, the criminal record certificate is a mandatory requirement for all those who are over 16 years old. And this, it has a validity of 90 days. So once it is issued, you can use that within 90 days. So after 3 months, if you didn't apply yet, you will need to get a new one. So this is a document that you don't need to get right away when you start preparing your documents. You can leave to focus first on the proof of accommodation and also the bank statements. And if you intend to open the bank account here, so you can start with this part. The criminal record certificate will be necessary and you can get it later. The proof of family ties, that, so if you have family members joining you to the application, they will need to prove that they are their relationship with you. So the relationship with the main applicant. For that, they will need to, if it's your kid, they will need to get the birth certificate. This one, it has a validity of 12 months. So it must show an issue date of the document. So if you have an old version of the birth certificate, older than 12 months, you will need to request a new one at the county where they were registered. So if they are not able to do that for you, you could just get a notarized version of that, of the original, like a notarized photocopy of the original, because it must show an updated date for the application. And the same for the marriage certificate. If you're bringing your spouse, you will need to show the marriage certificate and it must be updated. But for that, the validity is of 6 months. Also, partners are eligible for this to be linked as a family members. If you are not married, but if you live in a civil partnership or stable union, that can be proved. If you are able to prove that you live together for at least 2 years, 2 consecutive years from the moment you apply. So for the past 2 years, you can prove common life, common housing, and this will be also possible. And of course, the proof that you qualify for the specific visa type, so the passive income, the active income, the company registration. So the checklist will be specifically for the visa type that you are selecting, and each one will have some specific requirements. As for the timeline, so it all starts for you to identify which visa suits you best according to your situation. So it's important to select the correct visa type. And after that, you can start gathering the requirements. So this part of the preparation of the documents usually takes around 2 months. It really depends on your intention. Like if you intend to move a little later, you can start the process. You can use like 3 months for this part, and you will need to book an appointment for your visa application at the country of origin. So where you are, there's where it starts. So you will need to go to the consulate of Portugal responsible for your jurisdiction, or if they have a third-party company that is their partner, like VFS, you will need to book an appointment at VFS, which is entitled to receive your application, and internally they will forward everything to the Portuguese consulate. So after you do that, after you book your appointment, you will need to finish preparing your application, like getting updated certificates if needed, and then you will need to bring it all to your consular appointment or to the appointment at VFS. They will need to get the hard copies of everything and they won't give them back to you. So the process starts at the Consulate of Portugal, and then they will only give you back your passport with the visa seal. All the originals that you will bring, they will keep at the consulate. Right? So after that, they will have up to 60 days to provide a decision to you. So that's the deadline. Sometimes, if they are on high demand, they can take a little more. Like, so usually we recommend waiting about for like 2 to 3 months to get a decision. And then you will receive the passport with a visa seal valid for 4 months. That's the period that you will have to move to Portugal. So when you come to Portugal, you will need to prepare the residence permit requirements. And as I mentioned before, this is simpler. They will just need some updated bank statements and proof of address in Portugal. And there is where they will collect your biometrics. So you will need to be in person. And they have the IMA appointment. So this is the IMA appointment. IMA is the immigration agency of Portugal. So after you go there, they will provide to you a receipt. So there's another waiting period for you to receive the residence permit card. They will deliver the card at your Portuguese address within up to 90 days, 3 months. So here about some prospects. Having this type of visa, which is related to those who intend to live in Portugal, it means that you will hold an EU residence permit. So this means that you'll have a residence permit that is like the standard type for all the EU, and you have free access to the Schengen area. So if you previously had a visa for that, you no longer need that because you can use the residence permit to move around between countries of the Schengen area, which is basically the European Union. This also entitles you to stay out of Portugal for up to 6 consecutive months or 8 interpolated months within the period of validity of your residence permit. So if you need to go back to your country of origin, you can do that, respecting this rule. Like for you not to lose the residence permit, you must respect this rule. There are some exceptions, like for professional reasons, health issues, you could be out for more than this period, but then you will need to justify at the immigration agency. Also, you will be able to apply for a permanent residence permit after 5 years. For this one, it's a permanent residence permit, but actually the card is valid for 5 years. So every 5 years, you just need to renew the card, but the permit is granted as long as you don't respect the other rule here for permanent residence permit holders. you can be out of Portugal for no more than 24 consecutive months or 30 interpolated months every 3 years. That's the official rule, but also if you need to justify that, it's possible to you can inform IMA about the situation. For this one, the Portuguese A2 level proficiency is required. So after 5 years living here, you might be able to learn Portuguese already. And it's a simple test. It's like basic level. A1 and A2 are basic level. And you can get a certificate for that. So you can then apply for the permanent one. If you don't have that at the time of like after 5 years, you could still apply for a renewal of the temporary residence permit. That will be also possible. At the end, you also have the possibility of applying for the Portuguese citizenship after 5 years, because Portugal has the law for nationality here. You can apply for that, for the Portuguese nationality, if you lived in the country for at least 5 years. So after this period, IMA can issue a declaration on your behalf stating that you lived here for this period. You can also use the previous residence permits to prove that, and you can apply for the Portuguese citizenship, which is a process that, well, it usually takes around a year after you apply, and you can get at the end a Portuguese passport. So you can become an European Union citizen after this 5 years period in Portugal. And also for that, the Portuguese A2 level proficiency is required. Just to let you know, also you can do both at the same time. Since I mentioned that they will take around a year to approve the citizenship, before that, you can apply for the permanent residence permit, which takes 60 days, 60 to 90 days to be approved. So you won't lose the right of living here before like waiting for the approval of the citizenship. Here we have just a comparative table with the main visa requirements. We also have here the Golden Visa. Our company works a lot with Golden Visa as well. We have other webinars to explain that. But well, for D7, Digital Nomad, and D2, which are the most common ones for D visa applications, we have some differences. But basically, what is really important to understand is that they have their own specific requirements, but they will grant the same rights for you to live in Portugal with a residence permit of 2 years, renewable for 3 more years. All of them will give you the opportunity of applying for the Portuguese citizenship and for a permanent residence permit at the end. So they will just be different on the specific requirements as we reviewed before. And they all also provide to you the opportunity of applying with your family members. So this is our overview. I hope I could clarify many of your questions, but now we'll be here to help. If you have any questions, we are here to clarify everything for you.